Ireland's Classic Hits Radio. How are you? It's Trina Mara here. Well, every day on the show, as you know, I seem to mention this man's name in some shape or form because, let's be honest, he was responsible for half the music that we play in this radio station. You're very welcome to the show, Pete Waterman. How are you?
Marvellous, thank you. Great introduction, by the way.
But you know what? It just dawned on me there the other day. And in fact, we do an item every day and we call it the number one at 1 because we play it at 1 o'clock. And what we have is a selected year. And I'll tell you what the top 5 songs in the charts were from that particular year. And I'll give you a bit of trivia about it. And even last week, it dawned on me that your name was in there twice within the top 5. This was often the case, wasn't it? That a number of your songs would be in the top 10 charts at the one time.
Yeah. Tires me out to think about it.
Take me back to the very beginning, Pete, how this all started for you and your love of music.
Well, I started, way back in the 50s when I discovered American radio. The station was called American Forces Network because, of course, there were still American soldiers in Britain and in Europe, so they had their own radio station. And I used to listen to it, on my transistor radio. And it played such different music, and I just started collecting the records.
Yeah.
Didn't really think any more than that. Then I just got the records. So by about 1958, 59, I got a really good collection of records. And I don't mean stuff like Cliff Richard or Elvis Presley. I mean some more obscure stuff like Chuck Berry and stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously, you come into the 60s. Parties become the thing. And I had all these records, so I used to get invited to all these parties to play records. Nothing so grand as a DJ. I used to sit in the corner with a pint of beer playing records for like 10 bob.
Of course, everybody's a DJ now, aren't they, Pete?
Yeah. I've heard some of the songs they play. I wouldn't have got 10 bob for playing them.
They press a button and that's it, and off they go. Yep. So you had an ear really for music, for the good stuff from quite early on. How did you get into making the music then? So you were playing other people's music, but how did you actually get into making the music?
Well, I think that, I joined Mecca in about 1968, which was a big dancehall chain here. And obviously, Motown was important to me. Philadelphia International, stuff like that was massive for me. And when Motown moved to Los Angeles from Chicago, it changed. I mean, I couldn't play Papa Was a Rolling Stone. I could play, the Supremes and stuff like that all night long. I couldn't play the new stuff that was coming out of Motown. And my audience dwindled. My audience started going down. So literally, it was like, I better do something about it. You know what I mean? I just figured I better start making something that might work in the club, and that's how I started. I'm pretty crude.
So what changed? What changed about Motown? They changed their style, did they?
Yeah, the Motown style, it was exceedingly fantastic pop. For my audience, working class Midlands people, it was absolutely meat and potatoes. It was like every other record was basically a Motown record or an R&B record. That's just what they danced to.
Yeah. Your audience started dwindling. They weren't into the music, so you were like, I'm going to do something about this. So what did you do?
Yes. I made some terrible instrumentals, and I mean terrible. But they had a beat that people could dance to. So, they were prepared to dance to them because, they were danceable. Got no lyrics, didn't have any singers, didn't even think about singers. And really, that's how I got into it. And then what happened was, local radio started in Britain because we hadn't had local radio here. And, when it started, commercial radio, the record companies realised they needed promotion guys to go into the radio stations and get their records played. And I was very lucky in that I was doing great business as a DJ. So, the promotion guys used to come to me and ask me if the record was a hit. And that's how literally I got into it. The guys would bring me free records and say, "Is this a hit, Pete? Should we be promoting this on radio?" And that's how I really did get into it.
So you would start playing the songs that you thought were going to be a hit, and next thing they would totally take off. So you clearly had a very good ear for music.
Yeah, because you know what? We had to. I mean, I got £40 a week was a lot of money for 1970, 1968, 1960.
Jeez, that's what I'm paid now, Pete.
Yeah, well, I got that's how good a DJ I was. But I got a percentage of the door, so that was big money,
Yeah.
And it was like you don't want to lose that. So what you learn as a DJ very quickly is you can't play the same records every single time. You've got to introduce new records, okay? But introducing new records is difficult because people don't dance to what they don't know. They've got to get to know it. So you learn how to play records into the set without upsetting your set. Because if you played a record and people all walked off the dance floor, the manager would come and look at you. He'd stare across the ballroom at you, and you knew one more of them and you were out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I couldn't afford to lose 40 quid a week.
And when you think of it, Pete, that was before the days you couldn't just press play on a laptop and nip off to the loo. You had to stay there for the whole night, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and you'd have a box of like 200 or 300 records, but you got to read the crowd. You couldn't just play records ad infinitum. You had to judge where they were with the dancing, and you'd slow it down, speed it up, give them a smooch, give them a few requests. It really was an art form. And as I say, if you lost the dance floor, the manager would glare at you, and you knew you just couldn't lose the dance floor.
You'd be out the next week if you did.
No question about it. You're gone. It was ruthless. There were 5 DJs queuing up to get your job.
And with all those, you looking all those records around with you, my God, your back must have been broken bringing them around everywhere with you.
Yeah, I mean, it was blinking. I loved it. I mean, the ironic thing is, I think back. Everybody talks about the swinging 60s and 70s and 80s. I was too busy working.
You missed it all.
I had to be in the ballroom for sort of 7 o'clock. I wouldn't get home till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. And occasionally, if we had come dancing, which is like Strictly Come Dancing, we used to have to go in on a Sunday and strip the dance floor for the dancers. I mean, it was a nightmare. But I learned more. I learned everything, because we were expected to do everything. Clean the dance floor. We had to learn how to change the toilet rolls, how to change the hand towels.
Go away. I mean, you really did do everything.
You had to stock the bars if you'd had a really busy night. They'd call you up and say, could you come in and help, stock the bar back up?
We're going to have to tell the DJs in this radio station that they're going to have to go down and clean the toilets. I'll let them know that's now required.
I know more about cleaning toilets than probably any other DJ on earth.
So jumping way ahead then, Pete, to the days when I was growing up in the 80s. They were the years when I was buying my first records, and music is so important, isn't it, when you're young like that, and you remember the very first ones that you've bought, and the whole stock Aiken and Waterman. How did that come to be?
Well, I just, I've been in the record industry full-time since 1971, and I met my old boss, in fact, this week, and I pointed out I started work for him 50 years ago. We spent the whole lunch talking about who had gone since the last time we met. Shows our ages, but I realised that by 1975, 76, certainly by 78, the record industry really weren't paying attention to young people. They weren't interested in the younger audience. They just thought that the younger audience was not for them, and they were more into rock and roll and albums. And they'd left this huge gap in the marketplace, and they were trying to fill it with bands that just didn't mean anything. And I just thought, well, if they don't want that audience, hey, I'll have it, because you can't, we were a small little record company. I started a record company with 50 quid. You can't take on CBS and Sony and EMI with 50 quid, but you can if you make great records.
So what was the first one that you made? Do you remember?
The first one, which I knew that, we cracked it, was we did So You Think You're a Man by Divine. And although it was only a moderate success in the charts, it really, really opened the door for the clubs. I mean, suddenly everybody's coming to us and because of the sound and going, what is this? And then from Divine, we did Hazel Dean, which was our first massive hit, because nobody had heard High Energy by that point. I mean, to me, it was Motown on steroids, but everybody else, it was like High Energy. But they were songs about unrequited love and angst, and that's what Motown was about. And the kids related straight away to the songs, and we just saw instantly that was the market. That I understood that market.
And there were so many artists, Pete, that really you're responsible for their careers starting. And I'm talking about artists that are still going so strong today. The likes of Kylie and that. I mean, when she came to you, or when you started working with her, could you see that there was a real talent there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, because she was an actress, you know? Yeah. The great thing about Kylie was she'd teach her a song, and literally she would go straight in and sing it, because she's used to, because she was doing soaps, she was used to like getting the script an hour before they filmed it, and they would expect to do it in one take. So we'd never worked with a singer like that, because singers, you give them the song, they take a couple of hours to learn the song. But Kylie didn't, was so used to seeing a script and having it bang off in 20 minutes that for us it was like, wow, amazing. She'd be in and out the studio recording a single within an hour.
Well, I mean, you needed her to be, because you were so busy around that time writing for everybody and producing for everybody. I was lucky enough to meet Kylie, and she's a lovely, lovely person as well, isn't she?
Oh, fantastic. I mean, we're still great friends. And obviously, she's got this Lifetime Achievement Award this year. So, the other thing, I think back then, you talk about Kylie and Rick and Bananarama and things like that. Nobody would have predicted they would still be around today in the enormity of what they are. I mean, Rick Astley's selling out mega concerts. I mean, nobody would have believed it. If I'd have put £1 million on it, I'd be a trillionaire.
I think Take That very much helped him with his comeback as well, though, didn't they? I mean, the song was always such a hit. Like, anytime we played, people just adored. The song was never going away. But I guess Rick kind of went away himself for a while, and then he started supporting Take That on their tours, and then the audiences who loved him the first time round got to see him live again, and that's how. Was he really the T-boy in a record label?
Oh yeah,
he
yes.
was
Yes, he was. Yeah. Well, Rick had I mean, it's well documented. Rick had some mental issues that he had to sort out, and so he was always a very shy case, a lovely guy. So I always knew when I signed him, I couldn't chuck him in at the deep end. I had to ease him in. He had to understand the whole process, which is why he does everything himself now. Last time I spoke to him, he was on the roof doing his tiles. And that's Rick Astley. That's him. He doesn't want anybody to do anything. He wants to do everything himself. I pointed out he's the most expensive tiler in the world.
I must get him around to do my garden. I'm looking for a gardener.
Yeah. If you've got a few shingles loose, he'll pop round here.
So Rick Astley, and then was it I Should Be So Lucky was the first one that Kylie released? I'm just trying to think back myself now.
Yes, it was.
I heard as well, I think this was one of my little pieces of trivia on the Top 1 at 1 there last week when I was saying about you featured twice in my top 5 countdown. I think one of the songs was Kylie, Better the Devil You Know. And there was some story about that, how she had split from Jason Donovan and she told you guys she started dating Michael Hutchins from In Excess. And somebody, it might have been Mike Stock, who said, "Oh, Better the Devil You Know," and that's how that started. Is that true, that story?
Well, it's true, but it was me that said it.
You said it?
Yeah, because we just didn't know how Michael would interact. And Jason could be difficult, but it was Better the Devil. I said, well, it's Better the Devil You Know. And we just went, that's the title. And that's how it works sometimes. Somebody says something, you go, wow, yeah, got it. We instantly knew how to write the song because the title wrote the song. I
mean, even when you look at, say, 1988, you wrote more songs and produced more songs than I've had hot dinners. I don't know how it's possible to have come up with that and to be so creative all the time. You must have been working day and night, were you, Pete?
No. In fact, the opposite. We were very, very disciplined. We didn't start till 11 o'clock in the morning. And we never worked past 9 o'clock in the evening.
Go away.
So it was a job, and because we were focused on it, when you're in that groove, it becomes easy. And it isn't easy, but you've had 20 years of learning that suddenly works for you. It's like when you see a good carpenter. He doesn't measure anything. He knows exactly what size it is because he's done it a million times before. And that's the same in songwriting. When you're in the groove, you can write every hour. But there's a point where you hit a brick wall. And when you hit that brick wall, it's all over. It's finished. It's gone.
The song that Donna Summer had, This Time I Know It's For Real, another favourite of mine, I think that popped up in the show last week as well. Is it true that the record label had said that no, they wanted a rockier sound, and you put your foot down and said, nope, this is the one, this is the sound? Were you quite kind of pushy, I guess, when you knew that something had the right sound?
It's true to say, with Donna Summer, we were great friends. Her husband and I were great friends, and Donna and I were great friends. I knew we'd made an amazing album. I knew that. And when the American record company started to question if they wanted more rock guitars on, I just went, you know what? If I'm a record producer, if I really believe in this album, I have to say, thanks very much, but no thanks very much. So I literally did say to David Geffen, tell you what, I'll send you the money back. I'll wipe Donna off the tapes, and let's call it quits. I'm walking away. And I had a call about 24 hours later from Arma Ertegun, who was the head of Warner's. He said, is that right? You told David Geffen you would wipe the tape and you'd give him his money back? I said, yeah. He said, you feel that strongly about it? I went, yeah. I said, if you want a stock Aiken and Waterman album, this is it. Can't do any better than that. So that was the deal. That's what you wanted. That's what you've got. If you don't want it and you want me to do something else, well, I don't want to do something else. So give me your money back. I'll have my songs back.
Because I'd say at the time, Pete, you must have been getting bucket loads of demo cassettes and everything sent to you. Everybody wanting to work with you.
Yeah, and I remember Armut caught a plane and asked me to hold on for 48 hours because he was coming to London. He came down the studio and he said, you know what, you're absolutely right, don't compromise. I'm putting the album out, and it was a huge album. And it's one of my favourite albums. And the songs on that album are incredible. It's the best album that we ever made.
Out of all your artists, would you say that, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because Donna was a sensational vocalist, but she was in the wilderness and, we wanted to do something different. And whatever we threw at Donna, she could outdo us straight away. When we wrote with her This Time I Know It's For Real, she goes into the studio, she's singing it back to us, obviously we're in the studio. I mean, it was like listening to a completely different song. It was like you're actually sitting, listening, going, did we write this song? Whose song is this? Because it just takes on a completely different life. And that's when you have to pinch yourself. You're working with Donna Summer.
Because what happens, Pete, when you write a song? Is there like a vocalist comes in just to kind of record the demo to give the artist an idea of how it sounds? No. Explain how it happens.
No, we never did demos. No. Never did a demo. Wouldn't do demos. We worked with the singer who was going to sing it, and we wrote the song. I would say in most cases, at least the longest, I think, would have been a day before or 2 days before. I mean, Better the Devil, you've already quoted. We wrote that as Kylie's on the way to the studio, and we were still writing it when she was in the studio.
Telling you the story about the breakup.
It's like, it's instant. It's because it's fresh in your mind. You're creative. There's this great little story that you've got to put together in 4 minutes. It writes itself, really.
Yeah. It's kind of real life, isn't it, as well? That's what works almost.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Some of the other artists as well. I mean, the list is just going on and on and on here. Some of the other artists that you worked with, the likes of Samantha Fox, Bananarama, Sunita, Sonia. There was nobody really that didn't have a hit.
I think we were, to be truthful, we didn't because, you know what, we were too busy. And if I didn't think it was a hit, I didn't bother doing it. They weren't all top tens, of course, but there were no out-and-out flops at all. Because I just, like you listen to a record, you go, that's never going to get played. And you just know it. You know your audience are not going to like it. No matter, they can put it on your playlist, but then the audience are never going to buy it. And within 3 weeks, it's come off your playlist. And you were right in the first place.
Yeah, and you feel bad for the people who sent it in hoping to get on, but you just know it's not for your radio station, yeah.
No, you just know it.
Sunita and that, I mean, she still very much, stayed, I guess, in the industry, has always been there besides Simon Cowell and that. It was a short enough music career, though. So some of them, I guess, had shorter careers, but they were successful the time they were out, like.
Yeah, I mean, Sunita's mum was a great singer.
Yeah, that's right.
Michelle Brown, great singer.
Didn't she have Sunita when she was very, very young? 14 or 15, I think.
Yeah, and Sunita's, I mean, batty is a fruitcake, but I mean, that's what you need sometimes, isn't it?
She's a great one, actually, Pete, for giving you all the secrets that you shouldn't be telling people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Batty is a fruitcake.
Yeah. I'll never forget the outfits that she used to come out on the telly when she'd be on the X Factor and that.
Yeah, I love her. She's fantastic. You never know never know what's gonna happen.
She's a great one for the old gossip as well.
I love it.
The TV shows then, in 1989, you came up with this idea for a TV show, The Hitman and Her. And
yes.
This is a show, I guess you featured lots of musical acts, but also I know that Jason Orange from Take That was one of the dancers on that. So I guess that started his career as well.
Yeah, and we gave Take That their first ever television show.
So once again, you could see that there was something there.
Yeah.
When you wanted to make TV shows, I mean, was that something that you always kind of had a plan of doing, or was it just that you're just so full of ideas that you were like, let's do something with this?
I came home one night, say 1 o'clock in the morning, and nighttime television hadn't quite started in Britain. It was just new. And it was like Elvis Costello and somebody else at 2 o'clock in the morning talking Irish politics. And I'm thinking, what? I've come home at 2 o'clock in the morning to get a bit of entertainment and I'm listening to politics. Nah, thanks very much.
Or the TV stations would close down, Pete. Do you remember that as well? They just closed down.
Yeah. So a week later, I was in Granada and had a lunch with the chief executive. And I said, well, television at night is rubbish. He said, could you do any better? I said, if I couldn't do any better, I wouldn't bother. I wouldn't get up. And he said, well, all right, what do you want to do? I said, I want to do a nightclub show live from 1 till 2 in the morning or 12 till 2. He went, you're on, let's go. I mean, it was as simple as that. And I promise you, if you'd seen the first show we did as a test for the commissioners to see, you would have thought it was the worst show ever in the world. I mean, who does a disco show on a Saturday afternoon with no audience? I mean, and that was for the commissioners. It was ridiculous.
Oh, but was the idea? The idea was meant to be, was it that you watched it when you come in from being at the nightclub?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah. Yeah. So the party continued.
So you come in,
at home.
You've had a few to drink. Hey, here we go. Look at this Pratt on the telly. Hey, look at that way.
And you were presenting that show, Pete.
Well, yeah, it was my show. I mean, I saw a great review once in, I think it was The Enemy, and it was an amazing review. It says, the Pratt that calls himself the Hitman. And then it went on to say what an amazing show it was. I mean, it was like... And now everywhere I go, everywhere I go now today, more people remember the Hitman and Her than anything else. You meet politicians, royalty, whoever, and they all want to talk about one thing, the Hitman and Her.
Wow.
First nighttime television show.
How long did that stay on the air for, Pete?
About 5 years.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in Ireland, it was the only show that was on at 2 in the morning, I think.
We had 2 channels back then. Just going forward a little bit then, Pete, you also we're kind of moving, I guess, towards the noughties then, and that's when the other TV shows would have started, like the Pop Idols. And I remember actually watching that. I loved that show. I love the fact that you're very real. And you'll say whatever is on your mind. There's no messing around with you. I remember buying the VHS at the end and everything. So the first show was it was Pop Idol, Pop Stars.
Then we followed it. Yeah, and then we followed it with Pop Idol.
Yes, that's right. That was putting Hearsay together, was it?
Yes, it was. It was, yes, absolutely, it was.
Yeah. So there was Hearsay, and then the band that didn't get through were Liberty X. So they went off and they had a career as well.
And Simon and I were supposed to be doing the follow-up act, but Simon made his decision that he didn't like the show, so we never finished. So we walked away before the final filming. And when they aired the first Pop Stars, the first ever show, I'm in a hotel and Simon calls me, are you watching the show? I went, no, but the girls are, my daughters. And he said, they've got it wrong. I know exactly what this show is. And he told me about the format. He said, are you in? I went, I'm in, yeah. Little did we know it would go on to be such a television series worldwide, biggest format in the world.
Oh, it was pure Saturday night entertainment, wasn't it? And I mean, that was before the days of Ant and Dec's Saturday Night Takeaway and all that. It was a great show for the whole family, yeah.
It was old-fashioned television.
That's what telly used to be. It used to be like New Faces and Opportunity Knocks and all those shows. Yeah. We were missing something like that, weren't we?
Yeah, but now, everything's got to have a reason for being, and there's no such thing as entertainment anymore. Nobody wants to entertain. They want to teach you. I don't want preaching that. I want entertaining.
So the following year, then after that, it was Pop Stars The Rivals, wasn't it? And that was when we got Girls Aloud.
Yeah. And that's the biggest of them all.
Because Nadine Coyle had obviously gone on an Irish version of a show like that. And she lied about her date of birth and she got caught. So she was too young and she was thrown out. And the next thing, it worked out much better for her because she went on the UK show and she had a much bigger career. So her little white lie worked out in the end. It was it's one of the most played clips on, I think, ever on Irish media is Nadine Coyle lying about her age. It's very funny.
Yes, he has a lot to answer.
And then it was Pop Idol, which was Will Young. And of course, poor old Darius, wasn't that just dreadful to hear about his passing?
That's sad. I'd actually been with him the week before. I've got to say, he's one of my favourite people, Darius. I mean, he was really fantastic. I mean, when he went, I couldn't quite get my head around it at all. I still can't. Because, as I say, I had coffee with him the week before and I was planning to go out to LA to work with him. And I just,
You only ever hear about people, all the lovely qualities after they pass, and everyone says it then. It's true, isn't it?
Yeah, very talented guy, a hugely talented guy, but obviously there was something in the background that we just didn't see. He seemed to be able to turn his hand to whatever he wanted to turn his hand to. And his parents were lovely. I mean, honestly, the whole show was a delight to work on because the people were just fantastic. And because we hadn't done it before, there was no silly games being played. Where after the first one, everybody starts playing games. They start turning up as bananas. It's like, yeah, right, okay. I'm doing this for me gran who died last Wednesday.
Oh, stop it, Pete. That's the thing that kills me. My goldfish died last week.
Gee.
My goldfish died.
Me. I used to be a drug addict. I was on 50 tons of heroin a week. But I'll come off clean because my grandma wants to cook me breakfast. Get on with singing, will ya? Just sing a bloody song.
If you've no talent, you've no talent. It doesn't matter if your dog died last week. It really doesn't.
Yes. No, it doesn't matter. I remember doing, it must have been second Pop Idol, I think. I was in Scotland, we were in Scotland, and the girl came on, and to say she was dreadful would be an understatement.
Right.
I wasn't, I just said, actually not very good, and, it's not for me, not for us. The mother had a fit. The mother threw a blue fit. Hit me with her handbag and everything.
Pete, you wouldn't get away with it these days. The PC Brigade wouldn't allow you to give a proper critique.
Yeah, and that's what's wrong with the shows. That's what's wrong. You can't, nobody can say anything. Well, you know what? If you've got mental issues, don't go on that show.
I know.
Because you know what that show is.
Yeah.
And if you put yourself in that position, you have nobody to blame but yourself. Yeah. And I can tell you now, with my hand on my heart, I never allowed anybody to be filmed that I thought wouldn't be able to cope with the comments. A lot of kids came in who I knew were vulnerable and definitely had issues. You never saw them on the show.
Yeah.
You never saw them.
Because I think, as the years went on the X Factors, that became the whole content of the show was having a laugh at someone else's expense.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Crazy. You didn't need it. It's a great show and it works and people will be sitting home and go, Peter loved this girl. And that was what it was all about. That she's going home. And the family would go, nah, you're wrong, Granddad. Yeah, I'm telling you, watch this, you'll go home.
You could actually, when you were doing the judging on Pop Stars and Pop Idol and all, you could even tell with you straight away you knew whether someone had it or not. As soon as they walked into the room, you knew, didn't you? And your comments would be quick. You'd be like, see you in the next round.
Yes, because you know what? You can tell. Yeah. There's very few people. I mean, it was like Will Young to me the first time I heard him. I went, wow, what's this all about? Not that he had the greatest voice at that point, but he did something completely different from anybody else. He looked completely different from anybody else. So you go, okay, what is this all about? He's instantly got your attention. Where other kids walk in still chewing tobacco, or they got pierced tongues and they're singing like that. You're going, can you take the spit out your tongue so we can hear you sing?
It's less now about the look as well. I mean, I guess 20 years ago when those shows were on, it was very much about the full package. It was about their look and everything. So when Cheryl Cole, or Cheryl Tweedy as she was at the time, walked in, it was, you know, she was an attractive girl as well. Now, pop stars can be any shape, size, they can look any way. It was a bit different back then, wasn't it?
You're underplaying Cheryl a little bit. I think she was more than a good-looking girl. I think she was a stunning girl.
Mm.
I wasn't putting the girls together, so, you know, I'm not sure I would have put her through on the way she sings, but I wasn't picking that group, and ultimately they won, so I can't be too critical.
Yeah.
You know, but I've never looked at image when I've had an artist. Never.
Have you not?
I don't, not for looks, because I think that's not what I do, you know. It's not what I do, because if you do that, the odds of you making it are, I mean, if you take One Direction, okay, they didn't even win the show. And if you look at the enormity of that band and what Simon did to that band, that is blinking staggering. And that defies all known facts, because everything he did is against the rules.
I always think as well about, you know, when people are being picked with the looks, and I always kind of think, well, hang on a second, if I'm listening to a song, I don't really care what somebody looks like. I do care if they can sing or not, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely right. Yeah, it's like, you know, listen to the voice. The great thing about radio is you can't see people.
Yeah, that's why I'm on it, Pete. A face for radio.
Yeah. A face for radio. Yeah, you've got a voice for radio. Bloody perfect. But it works for you see. It works for you when you've got a voice like Rick Astley, and you instantly come up with an image of what he looks like, and then you see his little red-headed kid from Noon Willows. You go, what? Hang on a minute, what? No, that can't be him. So it's completely intrigued you.
I'm just looking here. Did you work with Steps as well and Backstreet Boys? You did?
Yes,
Steps.
they were mine, yeah.
Will Mellor,
yeah, they were
Backstreet
mine.
Boys, Billy, Bewitched,
yes.
Cleopatra, Westlife.
Yeah.
I mean, Cliff Richard you wrote for. Did you write for Phil Collins?
Yeah. No.
Alison
Just
Moyet?
Cliff Richard. Yes.
I only got one name wrong in the whole interview.
Yes.
It's kind of mind-blowing. Is it 30 years this year since the first collaboration, Stock, Aiken and Waterman?
Yes, it is.
30 years. No, hang on. The maths. Let me do the maths here. 2024 we're in. It was 1984. 40 years.
My God, where's it gone?
And is there a celebration planned or anything?
Nah.
No?
No, we'll just get on working.
Tell me about the show at the Board Gosh in Dublin, the show that you're doing.
Well, I go to most shows. I'll definitely be in Dublin for a couple of days, without question, because I love the theatre and I love Dublin, so I shall be there. It's beyond what we expected, and you know, we finish in Dublin. That's the last of the shows, and then we open we're in the West End next year. So we're looking forward, right, Hooli, when we get to Dublin. I'll probably be drunk for 3 days. Well, I'm open to be drunk for 3 days anyway.
Pete, if you need somewhere to stay, I don't live too far from the theatre. You can come and stay in my box room. I'll put new sheets on the bed and everything for you. I might even do you an Irish fry. You never know. Pete, I'm going to be very rude and I'm going to ask you a question I would never ask a lady. Can I ask you how old you are now?
77.
And there's no sign of you actually sitting back.
Well, I've got no wood round me yet. So when they put the wood round me, that's the end.
Pete, you're an absolute legend and I'm so delighted to have you on the show. And I know all of our listeners would say a big thank you for being basically the soundtrack to their youth and for allowing me to have a job, because I get to play all this music that you've made. So it keeps me in a job every single day. So thanks for paying my mortgage for me, Pete. You're very good.
Pleasure.
Thanks so much for coming on. See you again. It's Ireland's Classic Hits Radio.
I'll see you in Dublin.